Hey guys, King of Charmanders here. Welcome to the thickest boy or the thickest mon in all the land. Behold, enter Lapras. Lapras is an incredibly tanky, bulky, and overall really good for Go Battle League. You may have seen Lapras used a lot in Great League and in Ultra League, and it's actually really good for the Kanto Cup. With the absence of really strong electric types and for grass types, because even if you do use things like Venusaur, etc., there are Hypnos running around, and you might not see a lot of grass, like I said, or electric types, which Lapras is weak to. However, the cool thing about Lapras, it has Ice Shard, so it means being a water ice type, it can cover those grass types. And it's really tanky, so it's able to live a whole bunch of damage before you can take it down. As you see here, Lapras sports a really good stat spread, maxing out at near 2500, so maxed out near for Ultra League. But for Great League, it's still very good because it still has a really great stat spread. As you see, incredibly high stamina, incredibly high defense, and good attack. So its stat spread is actually really good, even for Great League. As you see here, it does have several weaknesses. It's weak to electric, fighting, grass, and rock. However, because like I mentioned before, there's not going to be a lot of fighting types. I don't foresee a lot of fighting types running around because of Hypno's dominance in the Kanto Cup. Also, the only electric type you really have to worry about is probably Raichu. And probably Alolan Raichu, and with the threat of Amok running around as well, I don't think you'll see a lot of A-Chews either. Alolan Raichu is really good, but in this meta, Lapras can live those Volt Switches, so Lapras is still really good just because Lapras is so tanky. As far as rock types, I don't foresee a lot of rock types either. Unless it's the Rock Slide from Machamps, you're not really going to see a lot of, like I said, you're not going to see a lot of fighting types just because of Hypno's threat. Now, it does have few resistances. That's kind of like Lapras' weakness. It only resists ice and water. Now, the thing about ice, it double resists ice, which is really good, and it also resists fellow water types. So, things like Dugong or fellow Laprases, you will resist them. And Lapras has been hailed as an incredible tank, and it's very tanky. And it's also really good for the Kanto Cup. As you see here, Lapras sports Ice Shard. Ice Shard is a legacy move. So, in order for you to get an Ice Shard Lapras, you actually need to, raid for it. There's raid days for it. And if you likely have a Lapras already. But like I said, Lapras did have a raid day quite a while ago. And thanks to that raid day, Lapras that you raid can actually become good for, you can actually use it for Great League. So the thing about Lapras is that it's incredibly powerful, very good, but like I said, it's kind of limited to how you get it. As you see here, you do raid for it, it does max out at 1509, so you can't have a 15 attack one. You have to have one a little lower, but other than that, it's very easy to trade. So if you have a friend that has a Lapras, you could trade, or like I said, you already have one likely built for Great League. If you have it for Great League, use it. It's really good. But like I said, Legacy, its Ice Shard is Legacy. It does have Surf and Ice Beam, but it's been out for a while, like I said, so you probably have one. Ice Shard generates energy quickly. Surf is really cheap. You're able to put heavy pressure on your opponent, and it also sports Skull Bash. So Skull Bash allows you to, if you thought Lapras was thick, it can get even thicker. And it has actually a very, versatile move pool. You got Blizzard, you got Hydro Pump. But we're going to see, I think the way to go is definitely Surf and Skull Bash. Skull Bash increases your defense, and it gives you, I think it should win you that match against Mirrors, if you can get the Skull Bash first, or against those Dugongs. Because Dugong and Lapras have a long Mirror match. Because you resist each other! We'll go over that during the Matrix. But as you see, like I said, the Lapras you can only obtain for rating, so it's kind of difficult. How if you've been playing GBL for a while, you likely already have a Lapras built, or if you've been playing PvP for a while, or if you've been grinding for a while, you have a Lapras sitting around that you can use for the Kanto Cup. Also pretty sweet shiny, as you see, solid purple. Very cool shiny, very tanky, bulky mon, and very useful overall for Go Battle League. So Lapras is a little hard to, like, if you look at the list, Lapras sports at level 50, at rank 15 overall for the Kanto Cup in PvPoke. As you see here, it's able to beat Hypno. Hypno is, like, it's preferred to have Hypno to have Fire Punch for this meta, so because of that, guess what? Fire Punch does neutral damage to you because you're a Water Ice type. You also are able to beat the dragon, like all dragon types. So the Dratini family has got nothing on you, and you're also able to beat Alolan Sandslash very strongly because you resist ice. You resist those powder snows and those ice punches. As you see, you do lose against some of the meta. Shadow Hypno, Alolan Marowak, Zapdos, but you only lose against Shadow Hypno because Shadow Hypno is actually sporting double punch. But you'll see, as you see, it's very strong in all positions as a lead closer and switch, and it charges. It's very strong as a charger. As a lead, Lapras ranks at number 19, able to take on, as you see, the same things you did before. Alolan Sandslash, Hypno, strong in all positions as mentioned. It can do very well in all positions, and of course you want Surf and Skull Bash. As you see in the closer, you're able to take out Mew. You're able to take out Alolan Muck and Haunter because of its thickness. You do lose against Hypno in the closer and Snorlax, Chansey, etc. But we'll go over that in the Matrix week. But as you see, it's very strong against a lot of relevant meta picks. As a switch, Lapras is also pretty dang good. Rating at number 15 and taking on things like Zapdos, Mewtwo, the whole Dragonite family, and Golbat. Like I mentioned, Alolan Raichu is not your best friend. It does hit really hard in this meta because of Volt Switch, and also Machamp. However, I don't foresee seeing Machamp too much because, like I said, Psychic types like Hypno. But you can also see Alolan Raichu, but you can get out of it too. Alolan Raichu isn't the thickest Pokemon in the land, so because of that, there are ways out against Alolan Raichu. And like I said, we'll see that in the Matrix. Now, one of the reasons Lapras is so good is because it's such a great charger. So Lapras ranks at number 6 as a charger, but you beat out a lot of mons and outpace them as well. Like I said, very, very powerful for this meta, and mostly because of its bulk. Very bulky, very powerful mon overall. So, on paper it doesn't look good, but you're going to look at the Matrix and see just how good Lapras really is for this meta, because it's so bulky. Alright, so here's the Matrix, my favorite part of the video, because you get to see everything you beat and everything you lose against. Now, I got Lapras with Ice Shard, Surf, and Skull Bash. You want that moveset. You don't want Ice Beam just because there's not really a lot of coverage for Ice in this meta, and Ice Shard is enough to kill dragons if you really are targeting that. And Skull Bash gives you the mirror match, like I said, as long as you're able to get more energy, plus that +1 defense really is helpful for this meta. As you see here, I already have the 2 shield, you have the Kanto Cup meta to the right. I hit battle, we get the sim. As you see, you beat Articuno, you beat Dredro. You lose against Charizard, however, I think that's just, this is a very bait-dependent matchup, as you see here. They have to land a Blast Burn for you to win. So if you're able to shield a Blast Burn, you do win just going straight serve. So just keep that in mind. As you see, Charmers with 2 shields are dangerous. However, if you're able to bring down the shields, as you see here, you win the 1 shield and you're able to win up shield. So just keep that in mind, that Lapras can take on Charmers in this meta as well, just because it's so tanky. With the Skull Bash variation, you are able to defeat Dugong. This is really pivotal because Dugong is going to be your biggest nemesis besides other Laprases. As you see with Skull Bash, you beat Dugong in all scenarios. Skull Bash is valuable. Now, if you have Ice Shard, if you have Ice Beam, this is what happens. You actually lose, just because it's able to debuff with the Icy Wind, as you see here. Because it's able to debuff you, it's able to take control of the matchup in the 2 shield. You win the other ones, but Skull Bash, just keep Skull Bash. Skull Bash is really good. Now, I see, like I mentioned, you don't even need Ice Beam to beat the dragons. You beat them anyways. You beat Golbat because it's a flying type, so there's Ice Shard's chunk. Now, here's where it gets a little dicey. it's when it comes to electric type. So Alolan Graveler is very powerful, especially since it's a rock type as well. Because it's a rock type, if it does hit you with Rock Blast, it's gonna suck because it hurts a lot. However, you do win up 2 shields, as you see right here. So try to avoid electric types, but you do have answers against them. Shadow Machamp is going to destroy you. If you see a Shadow Machamp, get away from it. Do not engage in a Shadow Machamp. As you see here, unless you're in the 1 to 0s, you don't beat Machamp because Machamp is so powerful. And it's able to just cross-chop you down. You do lose against Mew, however, you have strengths, as you see against the Mew matchup. Mew is another thing, another wild card. However, as you see here, in the 0s, 1s, and the 2s, you can beat Mew. So as long as you have shield advantage, you can beat Mew. So as long as you have shield advantage and you're not even shield scenario, so you're good. Now, as you see here, you also beat Muck, and the big one you beat is Alolan Muck. Hypno is another thing you kind of worry about, but as you see here, you're able to beat Hypno. We'll see more in, as further scenarios. So Lapras is able to beat many Pokemon in many scenarios and live a lot of damage from a lot of them. Like I mentioned, be careful of Poliwrath or Alolan Raichu. Poliwrath is something you... I don't foresee a lot of Poliwrath, but these dynamic punches do chunk, so be very, very careful against Poliwrath. Also, be very careful against Snorlax, because Snorlax is very thick, and because it has superpower, as you see here, superpower hurts a lot. So even though you are tanky, this Snorlax is able to beat you down. But as long as, like I said, if you're in the 1 shield, you're able to beat it. So there's a lot of scenarios where Lapras can win the match for you just because it's so thick. Even against Alolan Raichu, as you see, Alolan Raichu is very powerful, very fast. However, you can win as long as you are up a shield and you're not in the closers. So still, like I said, Lapras is very versatile, very powerful. Now you do have to watch out for Shadow Victory Bell. Unfortunately, Shadow Victory Bell is a monster and you die in every scenario. So Shadow Victory Bell is mean. As thick as Lapras is, you can win with Ice Beam, but it's not worth getting rid of Skull Bash. Actually, you don't even win with Ice Beam. It just chunks you down the Razor Leaf. I lied. Never mind. I am wrong. Avoid Shadow Victory Bell. Kill Shadow Victory Bell. Just avoid Shadow Victory Bell. So I guess that's the biggest weakness about Lapras, is Shadow Razor Leafers really can just, murder it. You can win against Wigglytuff, though, as you see here. You do lose the 2 shields, just because with shield it's oppressive, but as long as Wigglytuff doesn't have shields or shield advantage on you, or at least in the 1 to 0, the 0 to 1s, you're fine. You can actually beat Wigglytuff. As you see, very versatile, very strong against a lot of the meta, and you have a lot of scenarios where you can win. Now, if you spend the 2 shield to the 1 shield, as you see here, if we get down to the 1 shield, you win a lot of matchups. You beat Articuno, Beedrill, both Charizards, you kill Clefable, you beat Dugong, all Dragonairs, the entire Dratini family, actually. You beat Golbat. You'll still lose against Alolan Graveler. However, this one is, you'll still lose against Alolan Graveler, but as you see, there's a way out. It's just Rock Blast hurts too much. So, try to avoid Alolan Graveler. Haunter also kills you at this point, just because if you shield the Shadow Ball, as you see here, it has to Shadow Ball you to win. So, if you're able to shield the Shadow Ball, as you see here, so if you're able to call the bait, I believe if you shield the Shadow Ball, you can win this matchup. Yeah, as long as you're able to call the Shadow Ball, you can win this matchup. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you shield Shadow Ball versus Haunter in this matchup. Now, you also beat fellow Lapras. You'll beat Lapras in the mirror, however, this is only if you're ahead of energy. So you're only going to beat the Lapras mirror if you're ahead of energy. And otherwise, you have to bank on CMP. As you see, you live with 1 HP. It's not a comfortable matchup at all. So you need to be careful against Mirror Laprases. Make sure you have extra energy on the Mirror Lapras, because you have to hit Skull Bashes. And then Shadow Champ, like I said, is a monster. Avoid Shadow Champ and just avoid electric types in general. Alolan Marowak does beat you in the 1 shield. However, this is if it hits you with Shadow Bone or Shadow Ball. So as you see here, Shadow Ball hits like a truck. You can shield Shadow Bone. You have a much better chance. So don't shield the Bone Club. They try to bait you with Bone Club. As long as you shield the Shadow Bone, you can win, as you see here. As long as you can it's a rough matchup, I know it's really rough, especially from the fact that Shadow Bone, as you see, is 35 energy, so it takes 4 Fire Spins to get there. And it only takes 2 more to get to another, it takes, actually I think 1 more, yeah, so if my math is right, you're going to have 40 energy, and then you'll have 50 energy, so it only takes 1 more Fire Spin That's what makes it rough. So it's going to be very difficult for you to tell, but if you can catch the Shadow Bone or the Shadow Ball with your shield, you'll win going straight serve. Just keep that in mind. As you see, going down in the ones, you can win as long as you bait, etc. But make sure you keep away from those electric types. Electric types and Machamp are dangerous. And, of course, Shadow Victory Bell just ends your life. Now, against Venusaur, Venusaur is tricky. Venusaur is tricky because, as you see here, you'll win as long as you're in the 2 shield or in the 2-1s or the 1-0. Or you're, like, at shield advantage. Just because this is when Frenzy plants... If someone is crazy enough to run a Venusaur in this meta... You're gonna see a lot. Yeah, you can still beat it, but like, just be very careful. Be very careful against a Venusaur. As you see, there's a lot of scenarios where if Lapras is in 2-1, so if it has shield advantage, Lapras is pretty dang comfortable in these matchups. Zapdos will beat you as long as it called the Drill Peck bait, as you see here. If you're able to shield the Thunderbolt, you might have a chance, I believe. So we're gonna, if you call the bait, see what I mean here? There's a lot of ballsy plays. There's a lot of calls. You're gonna make your opponent... If you got a Lapras, you're gonna make your opponent bait. Your opponent will have to bait. As you see here, battle, and then poof. Zapdos is tricky, but like I said, you can beat it as long as you call baits correctly, and you can beat a lot of the one-shield matchups with Lapras. Last but not least, we have the closer. So as you see, Lapras is very good. Because of its bulk, it's able to force your opponent into a lot of scenarios. And it gives you a lot of win cons, which is really good. As you see in the closer, Lapras is pretty thick. As you see, you lose against Clefable because Clefable's able to hit you with that Meteor Mash and then hurts a lot. As you see here, Meteor Mash hurts a lot and it does 69 damage. Giggity. So, but you beat Clefable in the 1s, and as long as you don't have the 2s. So there's a lot of scenarios where you beat Charmers. As you see here, you're going to beat Dugong because you have Skull Bash. You do beat... Dragonite family's got no chance. As keep away from Alolan Graveler. Also against Hypno. There are situations where you beat Hypno, like I said, in the 1s. So you beat it in the 1s, and you beat it as long as you have shield advantage. Or if you're one of the 0s. Just be careful with Hypno because Shadow Ball and Fire Punch hurt. Now, this isn't a super bad matchup. As you see, Hypno only lives with 12 HP, so if you already did some damage on it, you can take it out with Lapras. You could just go straight Surf, and that's GG's. Now, Shadow Champ, this is where things get rough. Run. No, seriously, run. Shadow Champ will absolutely destroy you in the 0s. So will Muck and Poliwrath, as well as Alolan Raichu. Basically, anything that zaps you, anything that punches you, and tries to break your face, you should probably run from it. Snorlax also beats you just because of the virtue of Superpower. Superpower does heavy damage, as you see here. Superpower does 86, not even half HP, but it still does a ton of damage, so just be very careful. As you see, you win the 1 shield, but just be careful in the 0s. Of course, you don't stand a chance against Shadow Victory Bell. Unfortunately, in the 0s, Venusaur does Frenzy Plant you to Oblivion, so just be careful of that. However, you do beat Wigglytuff comfortably. So if they don't use Clefable, guess what? You beat the other Wigglytuff. So I would avoid this. I would avoid the closer with Lapras. However, Lapras is thick enough to where if you already have done some chip damage on your opponent's Pokemon, you can still win. You can still play out this matchup and win. Now, up shields, Lapras is a monster. With 1 shield, unless it's Alolan Graveler or Poliwrath or Shadow Victory Bell, you can actually win the matchup. So, Lapras is very strong in the 1-0 scenario. As you see, very strong ratings. 800, 700, 600, and even like 500, like not super dominant 500 against Hypno, but you know, it does very well. All you literally do is you shield, and then you surf it. Surf's up, dude. No, seriously, surf's up. You'll eat an entire Shadow Ball, so you'll be fine. But yeah, surf's up, dude. In the 2-0s, the only thing I believe that beats Lapras is Shadow Victory Bell. Oh, man, it hurts. I hate Shadow Victory Bell. I really don't approve of it. I think it's a mindless, brainless tap-tap-mon. However, unfortunately, Lapras does die to it, as well as Charmers. So Shadow Victory Bell is the ultimate bane because there's not a lot of checks to Shadow Victory. Unfortunately, not even Lapras can beat it, even up 2 shields. But however, you do beat everything else. Like I said, very strong ratings. And if you do have shield advantage, which might mean the 2-1, so if you have shield advantage, you beat a lot of things. You lose against Poliwrath, but I don't foresee a lot of Poliwrath being in meta, so you don't have to worry about it that much. However, you do lose against Shadow Champ in the 2-1s. That Shadow Pants, of course, Shadow Victory Bell. So as you see, out of 30 meta Pokemon, you beat 27 of them in the 2-to-1s. Lapras is just that freaking good. Do I recommend it? Yes. The ones are very baity against some matchups. However, as you see, in all positions, Lapras is pretty dang safe for this meta. Thick, powerful, very, very strong, and very, very good. Because of that, I give it an 8 out of 10. Definitely an 8 out of 10. The Loch Ness monster, the thickest Lapras, the thickest Loch Ness monster in the land, gets a pretty high rating for me. Because, like I said, it's great in all scenarios. Like because of how thick it is, and it's like surface fast. Ice Star charges stuff fast, and Skull Bash gives you that extra defense. You have very strong matchups against the majority of meta. As you see here, if you click the battle and the multi-battle, you win 60... Well, if you round that up, that's 69%, which is the only number that matters. However, 68% is still very, very good. You're very powerful against a lot of the meta. In the 2-to-1s, this number improves. As you see here, 68%. In the 2-to-1s, 92%. If you have shield advantage... Well, this is the Kanto Cup, so yeah, hold on. If you do the Kanto Cup, you have not... Well, it's still 90%. It's still 90%. Like, okay, so... Yeah, it's still freaking really good. Actually, here, let me reset this, because I don't know if it actually... Okay, so there you go, multi-battle. Is this fact? Let's go over here, we do this. You send in the Lapras, and then you put the 2-to-1s. You do all this nonsense. That's why I do this for you guys, so you guys don't have to do all this painful thing. I summarize it for you in a very compact video that hopefully gives you all the information you need. Now, the 2-to-1s, as you see here, yes, it's 6... Holy mother of mercy. Literally, if you have shield advantage, you beat 92% of matchups. That's nuts. This is a huge difference if your opponent has 2 shields. Watch what happens. You go from 65 to 92. That's just up 1 shield. That's nuts. If you are up 0, if you are if you're in the 1 shield, even in the 1 shield, so you'd 62%, 65% in the 2s, 69% in the 1s. Giggity! It's very powerful. Like I said, Lapras is very strong in all scenarios. There isn't a negative chance. Even in the 0 shield, Lapras is at 70%. So Lapras still has a lot of great matchups. Up shields, Lapras is a monster. With shield advantage, you win over 90% of the matchups. In the 2-to-0s, you beat almost every mon except, like I said, almost every mon except like certain, like, well, all the Razor Leafers. Basically, the only thing that will kill you in the 2-to-0s is Razor Leafers. Other than that, you beat the rest of the meta. 8 out of 10. Lapras, you likely have one already built already. Versatile in a lot of leagues. Even for regular Go Battle League, it's really good. Even if we weren't in the Kanto Cup, for Great League, Go Battle League, Lapras is really, really good. As you see, because of its bulk, because of its stat spread, it's very powerful in all. It's very good in all. It's great generalist across all positions. Great generalist across all positions. With shield advantage, defeats and destroys a lot of the meta. Now, even in the 1s, what's good? This is a good and a bad thing. That's why it's in the pros and the cons. For the 1s, it's very baity. However, you can putting that pressure on your opponent to force them to bait is really good, because then you can start playing mind games. However, that can also be a con. However, because if you call it wrong, you lose. But being able to, with so much versatility, so much flexibility, so much pressure, and overall just a really great mon, and likely you already have one, Lapras ranks very high. Now, the reason I don't give it a 10 is because of obvious reasons. If you don't have a Lapras, you have to Elite TM. You're going to have to Elite TM it for its fast move. And anything that uses Elite TM or requires one won't get a 10 from me. Along with that, you do lose against Razor Leaf Victory Bell very, very hard. Shadow Victory Bell destroys you in this meta. You also need to pivot away from what... You beat a lot of what Lapras is weak against with shield advantage. However, you do need to try to keep it away from fighters as well as electric types, because they just really hurt. As well as rock types, which the only one you're going to see is Alolan Graveler mostly, but it also loses very hard against Alolan Graveler unless you have 2 shields. So like I said, be very careful. Does require some skill to play as well. That's another con. Lapras does take some skill to play. I know it looks kind of self-explanatory, however, knowing when you need to Skull Bash and Surf is a thing. And like I said, as long as you have shield advantage, Lapras does really good in the Kanto Cup. You guys like this video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video. Remember, Lapras is very thick, very powerful, and if you have one, I would really consider using it for the Kanto Cup.